welcome here to Talk FCB and welcome back to the channel, guys. It may be the international break, but the news very much continues. And today, I've got something really exciting coming up for you guys, because we are going to be hearing from the legendary, the charismatic, the most decorated footballer of all time. It's Dani Alves. We're going to be talking here about the exclusive interview that he gave last week, where he spoke about some really fascinating topics. He went in on the board at Barcelona. He slated Bartomeu for his management of this club. He also spoke there about Neymar's exit to Paris Saint-Germain. Was he a part of that? And of course, what Dani Alves said to his good friend Lionel Messi over the summer when it looked like he might leave. And Alves also had a little bit of advice for new signing Sergiño Dest. There's so much to cover, and what a great man. Let's get to it. Because let's make no mistake about it whatsoever right here, we are talking about a legendary player, not just in the history of Barcelona, but the history in the game. And a player that I've always said we still haven't replaced. That's why we signed Sergiño Dest this summer, to try there to rejuvenate our right-back position. Because ever since Dani Alves left there on a free transfer to Juventus in 2016, we've struggled. We have not replaced him. And we may never will, because he was that good. But of course, we do start right there with that exit to Juventus, which, like I say, was on a free transfer after Dani Alves spectacularly fell out with the management at Barca. And that is where we begin, because it was interesting. Despite the fact that he was such a decorated player, part there of one of the greatest teams football has ever seen in what Pep Guardiola created at Barcelona, Alves, when he left, hardly had much of a farewell. There was nothing really there like what we've seen recently with Rakitic, with Suarez as well. He had nothing like that, and he was asked there about why that didn't happen. He said, I didn't want to say goodbye to Barca because I didn't want to be sat next to people who didn't value me at the club, talking there about the board when he was there. He said, and to be honest, those people behave like towards me, but I've always said it, I won't say goodbye to a place that I think is my home. And Alves has always said that. He's always said that when he came to Barcelona, throughout his time there, that became his home. He said, I swear to you, I'm not telling lies. I offered to come back to Barcelona. He said, I knew they still needed me. He said, I went to Juve to prove to Barca that I was still at good level. And you remember when we faced Alves in the Champions League when he was at Juventus, it was actually Neymar in the colours of Barca coming up against Dani Alves at Juve, and he was brilliant. They knocked us out of the Champions League, and he was still at an outstanding level. But Alves said they didn't have the balls to admit that they were wrong. He said their treatment of me, if they'd have treated me as I thought I deserved, today I would still be playing for Barcelona. I love this club. And he has always said that. It's not something now that he's currently jumping on the bandwagon. He's always said the same thing, that he was forced out and that he never ever wanted to leave. And he was then asked, of course, in this interview here with Rack One about the poor management at Barcelona, what he feels right now is the problem at the club and where it's all gotten so wrong over the past few seasons, compared, of course, to Dani Alves' prime at the club when everything was absolutely spectacular, of course, mostly under different leadership. He said, if you change the philosophy of the club, you'll go through difficulties. He said Barca have lost their identity and now they must go through a process to get it back. He said what's always made Barca special is their style, their values. He said in life, you shouldn't try to be something that you're not. And that's what we've all been saying. Barcelona, under Bartomeu's leadership, have veered away from what made us special, what made us unique as a club. And Alves there, a player who knows that only too well. He can recognise that for sure. And of course, Alves being Alves, he went even further. He said, for me, it seems like the management has prostituted the club. He said before, the club had an identity, but now they're just a commercial club. They buy players, they sell players. He said before, they signed the players, only the players that they needed and who fitted the philosophy of the club. He said, yet now they've signed many valuable players, yes. He said, but players who don't defend the identity of the club. And again, that's what we've all been saying. Yes, Barcelona have signed quality players over the years. Yes, the players who come in for big money, they're very good and they were good at their previous clubs. But that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to fit this club. It doesn't necessarily mean those players were what we needed. And of course, one of the big talking points was always going to be there, Neymar's departure. Dani Alves and Neymar, of course, both Brazilian, but they are very, very good friends indeed. That has been the case now for many, many years. And of course, in the end, Alves ended up at PSG with Neymar, and he was asked there whether he was actually part of that move. Did he try and convince Neymar to leave Barca and actually join up with him at Paris Saint-Germain? But Alves said no. He said, why would I try to get Neymar out of Barca if I was the one who brought him there in the first place? He said Madrid wanted to pay 4 times more for him in terms of wages there, transfer fee. He said, but I was the one who convinced him to come to Barcelona. He said, I'm tired of hearing this. So Alves there very strongly denying that he had anything to do with Neymar leaving Barca and actively saying, look, I was the one who convinced him in the first place to join from Santos. And when Alves there was asked whether he thinks Neymar regrets leaving Barcelona, what he's feeling right now at Paris Saint-Germain, Alves said, I don't know what he thinks right now. He said, but all the players who leave Barca end up regretting leaving. He said, I would love for him to return to Barcelona, and quite clearly there, Dani Alves believing, as we all know, that Neymar will have regretted leaving, and who better to trust than one of his best friends. Then, of course, the subject of Lionel Messi came up, and that was one of the great things about Dani Alves, wasn't it? It wasn't just the fact that he was an amazing right-back going forward defensively as well, but it was also about that combination. The combination that he had with Messi, the link-ups they had, forever they were doing 1-2s. Whenever Alves had the ball, he was looking for Messi and vice versa, and they were so, so good as a partnership. And Alves there was asked in the interview whether he actually said anything to Messi during the summer, when, of course, Messi was heavily linked with Man City. Did you say anything? Did you get involved there in the situation? He said, once Messi told me after they wanted to kick me out and that I could leave Barcelona, Messi said to me, where will you go that could be better than Barca? And Alves said, so when this summer's story came out about Messi maybe leaving, he said, I told him exactly the same thing. He said, where can you go? I told him not to leave. But he said the difference is, they wanted to kick me out. But of course, they didn't want to kick out Messi. Alves went on to say, Messi is as great as the badge of Barcelona, but even he could see that everything around him was a disaster, and for that reason, it's understandable that he wanted to leave. So Alves there saying that he did tell Messi not to leave Barca, but at the same time, given the management, the poor management that he's already spoken about, he can understand why Messi would be looking towards the exit door. And last but not least, of course, it's all about Sergiño Dest, the man who's been brought in this summer, the young, exciting young right-back, who's effectively been brought in, like I say, to try to replace that huge void that we've still been lacking ever since Alves departed. And naturally, when somebody comes in there who's exciting going forward, he's very, very pacey, very energetic, there are always going to be comparisons with Dani Alves. I don't like those comparisons. I don't think any player there should be burdened with that, because it's a massive, massive void there to fill, big shoes to step into. And Alves too doesn't really like those comparisons. He said Dest has a lot of quality. He said he could become a great player for Barcelona. He said, but I don't see any sense in those comparisons. He said the same thing happened to me with Cafu. He said though, but if I have to give him some advice, it will be very simple. Pass the ball to Messi. And that was something that Alves did, like I say, time and time again. It served him well, and we'll all have to wait and see whether Dest can go on and even capture part of what Alves did. We don't want to put ridiculous expectations on his shoulders, and if he could even go on there and just be part of the player, a little bit of the player that Alves was, we'll all be very, very happy. This right here is a legend of the club. It was fascinating to hear what he had to say, and for somebody who knows the club so much, for somebody there who saw everything there was to see during his time at the club, you can see he knows what's going on. He understands it here, and I would love to see Alves back. I don't know what role he would fit, but behind the scenes, in a role at the club when he finishes his career, I'm sure we'll see him back at some point. When that will be, we'll have to wait and see, because he's still playing his stuff and doing it so, so well in Brazil, and not as a right back either. He now plays as a number 10. What a player. So please leave your thoughts in the comments down below, guys, based on everything you have heard here from the legend that is Dani Alves. I will be waiting to hear what you have to say, and of course, thank you indeed, guys, for watching today. There are plenty more videos coming up during the international break, along with some exciting news that I have to bring you soon. I will see you very shortly for all of that stuff, but until next time, as always, Visca El Barça!